Welcome to the RSI Trade of the Day. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader here at Verified Investing. You guys, the Victoria's Secret trade that we tried to put out on Friday, it looked like it was starting to creep up higher and higher and higher, and looked like it was going to get to our level. Unfortunately, it never got to our entry price, and then it got a little bit of a flush out. It's kind of chopping sideways earlier in the pre-market. So I still like that 2707 level on Victoria's Secret. I'll show you that it still has a potential to move to the upside and still tag that higher pivot level, which would institute a pretty significant pullback. And then if you look at the RSI on the daily time frame, it is also showing that it's slightly overbought. Here's a chart setup of Lululemon. Let's go ahead and switch to the 1 minute time frame. Lululemon actually had a nice pop on Friday. You got a good 7% move to the upside. Look at what happened with the relative strength index, though. The relative strength index started around the 4, headed higher, but it barely got to the 50, hung out here as price action started heading lower. Then it stayed below the 70 as price action headed lower, and then finally dipped below the 30 again. So for me, this is telling me that buyers tried to step in, but it couldn't get enough buyers invested, enough sentiment to go positive with the relative strength index above the 70 to switch this from a selling pressure to buying pressure. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the daily time frame. Look at this. Lululemon fell off a cliff. It was down over 20% at one time. So if it gets down to $154.86, which I think it's likely to do, you've got this gap fill that's sitting right here at $154.86. For me, this is a huge drop to the downside on Lululemon, but this is where my trade of the day is going to be $154.86. So keep your eyes on this level, and we'll get back into another reason why I like that chart. All right, let's go ahead and go to GDX. I had been covering this a couple different times. Look at what happened to GDX. GDX is now piercing that double top at $66.90. This for me is a great opportunity to enter a short. It could go up to $70. This would be for me the max upside for the GDX chart. Right? CRDO was another one that I was looking at. Volatility on the relative strength index, volatility in the price action. So CRDO, I still like $150.30 as price action heads higher. This is going to be a key resistance level, especially with this upsloping trend line. If it retags it again, if price action heads up, this would be a great shorting opportunity. All right, and so I'd mentioned gold a while ago as well. Look at gold, similar price action of GDX in the last couple weeks or so. Gold is getting overextended. It is now at 78 on the daily time frame. For me, gold needs to pull back. You've got this pivot right here that it goes through and connects through this minor pivot area, gets rejected right here. Finally, when price action gets above it, you see how much support this trend line is. So what's likely to happen is gold's going to get a pullback, and based on the amount of times that this upsloping trend line has been hit, it favors a move to the downside. It's likely to come back and retest this $3,120 level just because this is a minor pivot on the way down. And that would likely get the relative strength index to right about 43 or could even get down to 41 on the RSI. Okay. So I do like gold for a short opportunity here. So a couple different ways you can play it. You could either play it with GLL, or if you're really aggressive, you can use DUST. Now, this is a 2 times leverage inverse ETF for gold. So this one I would be a little bit more cautious on, just because of the fact that it does degrade twice as fast. All right, the other one they were looking at, Google. I did mention that a pierce of 235 on Friday would have been a great opportunity. Look at what happened. It pierced 235. It actually got above 235, got to 235.76. And then from that level, got a decent pullback, about a $3-4 pullback from the highs. So had you gotten in at 235, you could have taken about $2.5-3 on this trade. I decided to stay away from it just because the relative strength index. Let me go ahead and remove this trend line. Clear this up. The relative strength index stayed pretty strong, and I was anticipating it going even higher. But now, if you were to ask me where my next resistance level is, it would be at $240. So if Google gets up to $240 for me, that's a great opportunity to short. Enphase is another strong stock. Look at what happened on Friday. You did get you had the strong relative strength index. It did get below the 30 on Enphase. However, it was for Enphase can really move. So for me, this is still signaling that it's strong and it's due for a move to the upside. So let's go ahead and jump to the daily time frame to see where the next resistance level is. This resistance, or excuse me, this chart is at the lower ends or the price action. So I would actually be interested in a possible shorting opportunity at this gap fill at $42.43. So for me, this would be a great opportunity for a short if it can get all the way up to $42.50. All right, now let me go. I do have Lucid that I wanted to talk about. I had no, sorry, not Lucid. Sorry, let's go back to Lulu. I just had a brain fart right there. There was a electric car company that I had mentioned the other day that is doing really well on the back of It never got to our entry price, but then the next day it bounced like 20%, and I was going to go over that. I'll cover that tomorrow. I'll get my head around the trade, but let's go ahead and just jump into the Lululemon trade. So here's my entry price. If Lululemon gets down to $154.86, again, that is my relative strength index trade of the day. That would be a significant drop from this lows, about another 7% lower on the back of the earnings again, but this gap fill is too good for me to pass up. So again, my trade of the day is 154.86 with a stop out level at a closing price, a 15-minute closing basis below our entry price. And you would be looking for about a 3 to 5% bounce.